play Planet Unknown. So this is a Tetris kind of game, but before we get into it, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell because board games are awesome, and that's what we do here at Legends of Nirvana. Randy, can you tell us more about Planet Unknown?
Yes, Planet Unknown is a 2022 release. We just got it in a week or two ago. The rating on this currently on Board Game Geek is 7.8, and the rank is currently 2650. It's a 1 to 6 player game, which is a good range. 60 to 80 minutes, depends on who you're playing with, and age 10 and up. Designed by Ryan Lambert and Adam Rayberg. Art is by Yoma. Don't know the last name, just Yoma.
All right.
Published by Adam's Apple Games and is currently being sold on Board Game Geek Market, like third party selling it for 70 to 75 bucks. Or if you don't want to buy it from them, you can go to eBay and buy it for 150.
I think that eBay's not the option.
So yeah, this is for the Kickstarter Deluxe version, which has some pseudo upgrades. We'll talk about that in a moment.
All right, so now is the moment. So interesting enough. So the one thing I will say, the storage units for this game is pretty fantastic. All the Tetris pieces go into the storage unit, as well as the other stuff goes there. So,
yes and no. We got a good copy. There's a lot of people who are having problems with their Lazy Susan. There's a lot of them.
Wait, we got a good copy?
We actually got a good copy. My sister got the bad copy this time. So I know, it's amazing. A lot of people are having issues where the bottoms, some of them are puffed up, and you can't get the pieces to all go in. And if you did a fast spin or anything, they'd go flying, the pieces.
That actually sounds like a lot of fun. I don't see what the problem is.
Here's the big problem with it that I have. These tiles are two-sided, where one side is smooth and the other side's rough. Two of these, you have to flip them to the inverted side to get them in. So for my OCD-ness, this is a big problem. That's the big problem I see with it. But in general, most people that are not me would not have a problem with it, but that freaks me out. But there is a whole forum on Board Game Geek complaining about that very issue, and I agree with them.
Okay, well, hey. So then there are some casting, or what are these things?
Yeah, there's those are supposed to be escape pods and meteors. They did a wash on them, and it did not go well. It is the worst wash I've ever seen on a piece. The blue on the ship looks like it's going to chip off, or else it looks like somebody did their first attempt ever of painting a miniature. It looks horrible.
I don't know. Sarah could probably do better than this.
I don't know why that got passed through inspection, because it's awful.
They didn't need to do it.
No, it would have looked better without it. As a matter of fact, they're saying, as a recommendation, you could take acetone and remove it. That's the level it's at. The speckles on the other rovers, I can live with that. It kind of looks like it's dirty, but some of them being the fact that they're so white, and then you pick it up and it's so speckled, it does look like it's a filthy piece, and you want to wash it. But you almost want to repaint them.
If you take away the wash, I like the pieces though. I think these are
fine.
They're well designed.
Yeah, I like the pieces except for the wash. Now you did mention the two-sided of the tiles, but the tiles are general. Tile thickness.
They're not very thick tiles.
They're not very thick. They're not very thin. They're adequate. You did get this first player marker. It is wood. It is screen printed, or it's got a two-tone variation there.
And you have a little tiny flux capacitor that there's nothing in the instructions that quickly tells you what it is. It's specifically tied to one of the custom boards, which we'll talk about later.
All right. So, and then also you have these little cubes, which are pretty, the Terraforming Mars cubes, but one for each of the tracks that you'll be going up.
Yeah, you have cards that represent the different bonus scoring. They're not finished.
No,
they're very thin. Not good quality.
But to be fair, this isn't a major component of the game at all. This is just
yes and no. You've got the cards that you get for leveling up on the
but still, it's very minimal. But still, overall though, they tried.
They definitely tried. I will say the play mats are very thin, and they're already bending at the corners.
Yeah.
They did offer, and I wish I would have done it now. Like you could get the neoprene mats that for all of the planets, but it was a pretty costly thing to add.
Yeah,
on.
well, because the boards are two-sided, right? And
yeah.
Now they do have inlay boards for the track variation.
Double inlaid on both sides.
Yes.
That was really cool.
Yes.
But they do warp a little bit, and the edging is not great on them.
Yeah, I think that's so. Really, if you look at what the theme is, they tried.
They definitely tried.
There's a try.
There was definitely a try. So for trying, I will give them a 7.5. Because I think there are a lot of cool things, but there are a lot of things that they didn't think about the details.
Yeah.
It's those details that keep, and it just keeps dinging and dinging and
Yeah.
dinging.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really what it is the small little dings that just get you, for me, a 7.5. They tried. There's a lot of things that could have turned out really, really well. They tried.
Yeah, I'm probably between the 7 and 7.5. I think I like the pieces that they custom molded. I just wish they hadn't tried to paint them or wash them. I do like the fact that they gave the dual inlay boards. You don't very seldom do you see that. The player mats are just horrible as far as the thickness. They're almost paper thin.
Oh, yeah, they're really thin.
And they did give really nice trays for storing everything. They're basically like game trays. Not to mention the Lazy Susan as well.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't quite fit in the box where the lid will go all the way down. A lot of people were complaining about that. It's not a bad problem unless you're going to set other things on top of it, because that will potentially dent you in your Lazy Susan, which would be a problem. They did think to put it where you can actually take the centerpiece out and turn it, which I thought that was pretty clever. So I'll go ahead and give them a 7.5 because of those little touches. But yeah, it could have been a 10. That's what's frustrating.
Right.
It has the potential to have been a very awesome components in this, and they just missed the mark.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go 7. I think the warping, quickly. I mean, you've hardly had it.
Yeah.
And it's already everything. Like the cards are warping. All the cardboard's warping except for the tokens. Things look nice.
Mm-hmm.
The art's nice. Unfortunately, the wash wasn't nice.
Yeah.
But tokens, the token shape, they're all decent. They're good.
Yeah.
But I think a 7, just because of, and hearing that there's been so many other problems for other people.
Yeah.
With this.
Dude, I'm really surprised we're not the one with the problem.
I know.
Normally,
well,
it's
when
Randy.
my sister messaged me, I went and got all the pieces out and put them in to see, because she was like, you have to put all the pieces in before you can tell if you got one of the bad ones. And I'm like, I know I got one of the bad ones. I always get one of the bad ones. And I put them all in, and it looked like I had one of the bad ones because she had sent me some photos where they were sticking out. And I'm like, well, mine are puffed out a little bit. They don't go all the way down, but like you'd have to spin this maybe 60 miles an hour and you could fling them. So I did a video of me spinning it super fast because she was saying that they would fly out. And I'm like, it's going to take a lot more than I can produce to get this to fly out. And she's like, well, mine flew out at that speed. So ours were not nearly like hers was. They were saying a lot of people were taking hair dryers, blowing them into the containers until they got warm, and then softening it and pushing it down.
I'm not saying I haven't done that with some 3D printing, so it should work. Heat is your friend when melting plastic.
Yes.
But the thing is, at the end of the day, everything was mostly functional.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there you go. 7 to 7.5 range for all three of us. Okay, so now let's talk about theme. It's a space theme.
Yeah.
You're like terraforming a planet, sort of. You're trying to do things. You have a corporation. I don't understand how water tile, some of the stuff I don't understand as far as concept is what they are, but I still had a lot of fun. It makes sense.
But they tied the water tiles to where the ice was on the planet. So it's like when you're terraforming, if you will, the planet, you're getting the resource out of the ice. I like that, although sometimes it looked like the water was already on the planet, so I don't know if you call it ice. And then we had one situation in space where we had things that were like the rovers were being able to move around on the Oblivion where it had no land whatsoever, and you're creating.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how a black hole leads to terraforming because I feel like you would just get sucked in and become little noodles.
But it was a cool looking board. I mean, it was definitely a cool. So I like the theme of this a lot. And kudos. I mean, it does have variable player powers, and they do feel unique.
I do
I'll
like
give them that.
The
we'll get to
artwork.
variable player powers more later because I got an opinion on those. But as far as the theme of it, I think it's an excellent theme, and I enjoy space games.
Yeah, well, and the art was really good too.
Yeah.
I mean, the art itself was
nice.
actually really good. So overall, theme-wise, scoring it, I'm feeling like an 8 on theme. What are you guys feeling?
I think an 8 as well. That's where I'm at.
I'm going to go 8.5.
Okay.
I think they did a really good job. I think visually it looks it fits the theme, space, and everything. And I think they did a good job on that.
Yeah.
And all the boards are custom. The maps and everything are 2-sided. Now, one side is standard across all of them. So there's a lot of different planets. And they gave you a ton of planets.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
How many there were, but there's a ton of planets and
they're unique.
a ton of unique
Right. I mean,
companies.
there was like a 3-star one, but then there's another one where you had a water planet. Like it was very.
There's the Swiss cheese planet.
There was
holes
Swiss
in
cheese.
it. Yeah.
The chasm planet.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of cool things going on there. So I think that was great. All right, so now let's talk about Rulebook. I think Randy's gonna have. Let me put it this way: Swiss Cheese Planet met with the Rulebook.
Yeah,
okay,
Swiss cheese rulebook. So the thing is it's an easy rulebook to read. And when we first played this, I thought, oh, this is actually a decent rulebook until we played it. Mm-hmm. So it
got you going.
It's
quickly.
Elusively
It got you going.
simple. So I thought, well, it's so simple. Let's go ahead and add on all the add-ins. That's where things started falling apart. So there's a deck of event cards that are in the game. We added them in, and immediately we ran into questions with every card we played because there were green, yellow, and red cards. The green ones are positive, and they let you move up tracks. Simple enough. Yellow and red predominantly have ones that move you down the tracks. Well, the tracks are really one-way streets the way they're designed. They're not really designed for you to move up and down. There's actually one corporation, I think, that lets you move down without those cards, which also has a problem, but we'll get to that again later. But the fact that there was no explanation at all it said is you can add the events into the game, and if so, they gave you a recommendation on how to mix the green, yellows, and reds so you get the appropriate balance. That's it. There's no explanation on any of the cards, what they did. Yeah, I mean, the cards were fairly self-explanatory, so you weren't really confused by what they did, but the impact they have to the player boards was huge because it's like, okay, if I move down and there's icons you step on as you go up the track that give you bonuses. Well, if I go down, do I lose those bonuses? Not in the rules. If I move down and I go back up the track, do I get that same bonus again? Again, not in the rules. And some of them don't make sense to gain again. There's cards that you have a very set finite amount of them as bonus cards. If you go back up and down that track, you can just keep collecting them. And when I posted the question on the Board Game Geek forum, I actually got a response from the creator of the game, and he said it was a very good question and said, yes, you get the bonus again. Well, the cards are very limited. You have the number of players plus one. So you could potentially just burn through all the cards and the other players not get any. And also, you get these land rovers that let you collect things on your board. You have 1 or 2 of them at the start of the game. So if you've got 2 of them...
Well, you have access to place them. The
very first step on the board gives you one of the rovers. So if you potentially moved up, the other one is like halfway up or more up the track usually. So in the case, if you step up 1 and then back up and then step up again, guess what? In the first 2 turns or 3 turns, you've got both your rovers, which is a huge advantage, other than the fact that they'll potentially be played next to each other. But there's ways to bend that rule too. So, I mean, there's a lot of balancing issues that the event cards introduced by themselves, not to mention all the variable player power ability shenanigans and the variable planet shenanigans, which we'll get into in a little bit.
But that was an add-on, right? So
Well, it was a Kickstarter.
It was a Kickstarter, but it's in the rulebook,
Right.
but it's not detailed at all. They do detail all the variances of the planets, all of the variances of the boards. Although, again, there's questions on some of those. No Q&A in here. There's like they had pointed out specific things that they thought might be questions.
Mhm.
I don't think there was a whole lot of testing to get those questions before they put them in there, because most of the stuff in there was stuff that would be very, at least to me, I would have realized that this is what they meant by that. But the stuff that we were asking was not clarified in there at all.
Right.
In addition, some of the player abilities on the boards, when we read them, if you read them verbatim the way they're interpreted, it's going to sound like I look like I had an infinite loop on my board because of the way it was phrased. It turns out that isn't what it was meaning, but the way it's phrased, it looked like you could infinitely loop on the planets. And that's, depending on the interpretation, there's nowhere in the book that explains that either. So, there's a lot of holes that have led to a lot of questions on the forums on Board Game Geek already, and this hasn't even hit retail yet. It's just the Kickstarter. So I think it's just, I think the rulebook is lacking in those details.
I will say the artwork on it's amazing.
Yes.
Why is it 8.5?
Well, the frustrating thing is if you just read the rules and try to get in the game, you can get into it very quick. I would have given this a very high score until we ran into all those polls. And so
it feels like, though, if you're playing the basic game without the player powers and don't use the events,
yes.
You could do just fine.
Yes, if you play with just the fixed boards on the not standard side without playing custom planets, custom boards, and without any of the add-on events.
Then the rulebook was fine.
Just step outside that norm, and you're going to run into some questions.
There was quite a few questions that we ended up facing multiple times.
Given that, I can't give it more than a 4. I think it's.
Ooh, that's.
Well, I mean, 5 is our average, and it's not average.
Well,
it's below average.
It's to be fair. Yes,
That's
because I think you're spot on. Is the fact that at the end of the day we had a lot of questions, and even when we looked it up, we still didn't have any answers. We just said, well, this makes sense, so we're going to run with it. Now, if you have gamers that have played a lot, then you can kind of run with it and be like, all right, does everyone kind of agree this is probably what this means? Yeah, move forward. But then if you go to another group and they have decided something else, like it's not clarified, and then you could end up with issues. And the reality is, and we'll kind of get into gameplay, that's kind of important because I feel like, especially with a 6-player game, having that many people agree to it.
Rules need to be understood.
Yeah.
In order to play a game, it has to be in the rule book. It has to be there, or you cannot play it properly.
Right.
I mean, I'm thinking of a game that I've played where there were so many holes, we had to try to fill in the gaps ourselves. I'm not going to say the game here right now, because maybe we'll talk about it some other time.
But yeah. So I understand. It pains me because we'll talk about gameplay. All right. Now we're going to talk about gameplay. So real quick, this is actually basically, so you have 5 tracks that you're going to run up on, and depending on those tracks, because each, like I said, variable player power is all the same. So as you go up the track, if there's an icon, you get the icon, whether that be, well, victory points are end of game victory points, but either different things depending on the track. So cards, singles, I call them singlets because they're singles, but they're little forest tiles, one single little square, so you can help fill in gaps that way. Movement for your rover, increases on other tracks and different things like that. So there is some of that going on. All right, so basically, if you are the first player, you have the rondelle, everyone has their little triangle on a set section of it, okay? And then as the starting player, you're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna look at all of these and I want, this one, okay? Now, my arrow is facing this. Now, everyone else's arrow is facing another location, and you have the option of 2 different locations to get your tile that you will end up being being placed on your map. Now, there's a couple things I really liked about that, and we'll talk about that, I guess, a little bit later. So you take the tile, you place it on your map. Now, there's a couple of rules starting out at the game that can be bent later, depending on your player ability. But you have to start on the edge, and you have to continually touching more terrain tiles. So you're building it out, okay? So just kind of keep that in mind. Now,
and there's potentially obstacles depending on the board you're playing.
Correct.
That you have to play around.
Correct. All right, so this one, so now if you look at all the tiles have two different colors, no matter how many squares they are. Now, those two colors, generally speaking, will be, so I have a gray, so my gray or my technology track will go up by 1, and then my rover track will go 1, okay? Now, I get to choose which one I raise up first because that may matter depending on your player power or triggering special effects and things like that, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, so I'm going to place this down, and then I'll move up my 2 tracks and gain those benefits. Okay, now, all rules can be bent by the player powers, I guess. All right, so then you play it, you do the special abilities, and then the first player token passes, and that goes. Now, something about some of the tiles. Some of the tiles have what we call meteorites on them. So you see this little red flame thing. So when you place the tile, this orange actually goes on top as you place it down. Now, the problem with these meteorites is basically it prevents the row to be technically completed while it's still on the board. So you are trying to remove those. The other thing that you're trying to remove off the board that the rovers help you do is these life pods, as I throw things around. These life pods. Okay, so these life pods are placed throughout. They have special locations depending on your map, and you'll pick them up with your rover. As soon as your Land Rover lands on them, they get picked up and put over.
We have Land Rovers on the planet?
Land Rovers. Rovers.
If
Whatever.
We're on planet Toyota.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess they technically don't go on land. Some of them, sometimes they end up in water, sometimes I don't know. Or space.
Yeah.
So, fair enough, fair enough.
Black hole.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so then like your civilization. So if you go up the civilization track, you get civilization cards. Will give you immediate bonus, victory points, or they do have a little bit of set collection in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a little bit of that. The water track mostly just gives you victory points. Most of the tracks are just straight up victory.
But the water ones have specific rules where you have to play them on the ice on the planets,
correct,
or else they do not let you go up the track.
Yeah, they don't trigger. And then the greenery, like I said, it will get you those singlets, typically speaking. And also, a lot of them allow you to advance other tracks, depending on your board. But generally speaking, your rovers obviously let you move your rover, which lets you collect the meteorites and the life pods. The life pods, once you get them over here, are worth the victory point apiece. So keep that in mind. And then the tech opens up more of your player variability powers. So depending on your board, those all differentiate. Now, so let's talk about things that we liked first. Because I think out of all of us, I think I'm the one that had the most fun with this game. So I will lead this discussion because I feel like we're going to stay positive at the beginning. All right. So the thing I like, so I love this mechanism. Even if I'm first player, I get to choose the tile I want, but the other players at least get 2 options, because a lot of games that you do that, you get stuck with the option. And so this gives you a little bit of choice, but not a lot. And I appreciated that. I did like that. I liked the whole spinning kind of thing going on here. I haven't seen this very often, specifically with the dual thing. I like that. That's something new. That's something different. I love that mechanism. I'm always a big fan of Tetris games. So yay for me, component-wise. Love going up the tracks because that's fun. I do like the thought of variable player powers. They all felt very different. They worked really, really well with the theme. And at the end of the day, I will say this. I had a lot of fun. We've played this actually 4 times in 3 days. So that should tell you something, because we never play a game more than once right around to this place sometimes. But we did play it because I actually really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun doing it. Now, that being said, so there is a little issue with balancing.
Mhm.
And by a little, maybe a lot.
Now, to their credit, they did put like little comets, I guess you would call them, on the as symbols on the different maps and on the different companies. That gives you, at least in theory, some idea of how complex they are to play.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I don't think it was enough to give you an indication of which boards are more powerful than others. Like your board was the most complex company,
Right.
but you ran away with the score handily with it.
Double, guys.
Yeah,
Double.
if you take the planets and you choose the more difficult one, you're not going to run away with the score because the planet, the highest difficulty planet, is cripplingly difficult.
Yes.
It's the one, the Swiss cheese planet, where there's specific holes all throughout your map, and you can't lay your tiles unless
On
it
those
fits
holes.
on
Yep.
around them. So there's a whole lot of maneuvering, given the fact that other people control what you get to draft. You can find yourself in a bad situation, and the game will end whenever there's a situation where you cannot choose either tile from your selection.
But to be fair, I mean, even when you played it, you were only short a couple of squares.
Oh,
so
when we played it the first time, when we played it today, you had a different board that had a similar situation to that one. You had the Oblivion board, which has basically triangles in the perimeter that you can build in. And you ran into a situation very early in the game that caused the game to end immediately, where we didn't score like but 10 to 12 points during the game.
Hey,
because,
someone got 20. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, it was. But I'm just saying, this game can't, it can swing that heavily that, we started the game over again and played again because it felt like we didn't even get off the ground. We just started teaching the game. You guys got to play, and immediately Sam's like, "I can't play a piece." Really?
It was an element of surprise.
Yeah. So, I mean, it shouldn't have a situation where the game can end within the first few turns. It's just that was bad.
I mean, I think yes, because the reality is that, oh man, that was just, I didn't see that coming.
I was the one that caused it to happen, and I didn't see it coming.
So, I mean, there's some reality there. Like, you had that issue. Some of the other things that we ended up facing with player issues, I think you are more concerned with it than I am, but playing now with the 6 or 5 people, right? So we played 3-player, 3-player, and then 5 and 5. So we did get to see that. I think the balancing issue became a lot more prevalent in the 5-player than it did the 3.
Yeah. And there's one thing you didn't talk about, which is one of my biggest grievances with the game.
I was trying to stay positive.
Okay, well, there are bonus objectives that you play with, and you can play with the standard way you play with them is the way I absolutely hate. They're neighboring goals. You play with against the person on your left and the person on your right, very much akin to between two cities, except for you're not cooperating, you're competing in this case. I ran into, like, the first 2 times we played this game, situations where it was counterproductive for me to go for those bonuses based upon the company and the planet I had. And it made no sense. Like, Miranda was sitting here with me. I couldn't play water tiles and get any bonus for them. So the bonus between us was whoever had the most water tiles got 5 bonus points, which is a big swing in this game.
That's big.
And then your dad, oh no, I think he was the one with the water. I had the tech. But either way, whichever one, he had the one opposite me where he couldn't get the tech or water. And she had the bonus for that over there. So it was like from the beginning, when I even play, you're going to get 10 bonus points right off the top because there's no point in me playing water tiles and then playing tech or vice versa.
I mean,
whichever one it
you
was.
could choose to do whatever you want to do.
You could, but it was counter to what the board did.
Well, then therefore you just kind of accept it.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a little bit of luck, okay? Luck with those. And I actually like the fact, because here's the problem. If you get 6 people going after the same 2 cards, let me tell you something. It's going to be, no.
But the other option on the back is to play private ones. And you can add that, but it doesn't say to take away the co-op ones. I don't mind. I like the private ones, even though I really suck at getting them. I like those.
I noticed that. The private ones I thought were fine. But I actually liked the fact that I was competing with my neighbors a little bit. Well, see, here's the thing, though. I like In Between Two Cities. Randy doesn't.
I've never liked that game.
So,
I like that.
What do you think about having... what do you think about sharing, though, against the 2 people?
I think it's fine. I understand where Randy's coming from. The fact that, if it's like just... Maybe they should have thought about the things that you were competing for differently. Then I don't know what that would have been. But if it's gonna like completely ruin the way that the board is set up for you, then it's a big swing. Maybe they should have made it 2 points.
That was what I said.
Maybe they should have made it 2 points instead of 5 points.
But some of them are pretty hard to compete with. Yeah. But my thing is maybe it is you draft 2 and you place the one on the right. So at least you have one that you could possibly go after with your board.
Right, but that's not part of the rules.
That's not part of the rules. And I think at the end of the day, after playing a lot of it, I think that's the problem. There is so much potential with this game.
Oh yeah, I think
and they just didn't go all the way down the path.
Yeah, I think it could have been a great game. It could have been a great game. I think it needed a lot more play testing.
Yep.
Anytime you introduce variable player powers, this is a huge risk you run into where things, especially because you've got 2 different sets of variable player powers with the plants being variable and the companies being variable. Unless you play every scenario out and you test every component because you're adding in events, so you got to test everything together
with multiple people,
with multiple playthroughs, or else it can cause horrible problems. And you don't know what those outcomes are going to be. And so far, every time I've played, I've had a horrible outcome. It's different ones each time.
I mean, but the thing is, at the end of the day, we say this, it could have been a great game.
Yes.
I still had a freaking blast. I will still play this game again, but they should have finished. It was like, all right, we play tested, now where's the real one? And I think that's the sad thing, is because there is so much potential here. You had some great mechanisms. Tweaking some of this. I think drafting should have been a thing.
Yeah.
I think they should have added drafting a little bit to different components. I think that would help mitigate some of these.
Well, I'm not sure what you would draft.
Drafting these.
Well, there's not enough boards to really do that.
No,
with 6 players.
And that's really one of the big problems is there isn't enough boards with the difficulties. If they have a 2 difficulty, a 3 difficulty, a 4 difficulty, there should be 6 of each of those, so that everybody's can be at the same difficulty level. Otherwise, there's going to be a power imbalance.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing is I think they should have worked that out. And I don't even mind if you added these 2 difficulty levels together, because that's kind of what we did. This is again, self-ruling. We said, all right, we're going to draft these a little bit because we thought that made sense a little bit. So you can kind of pick and choose, but you need at least a difficulty of 5. Right. And I think that's the thing is that should have been in the rule book. Like saying, okay, when you're playing with somebody, making sure that you kind of have a balancing thing, but they didn't do that.
But the other thing is, though, is it's not that even that doesn't feel like it balanced because the planet is so key. The planet is so key. And if I have a 2 difficulty planet and somebody else is sitting with a 3 difficulty planet, and my difficulty on my company. Well, let's talk about our last game. I had a 2 difficulty planet and a 4 difficulty company, and it was not, it went very well for me.
Yes.
Yes.
Whereas other people were playing higher difficulty planets
Mm-hmm.
and did not do as well.
Yeah, I mean, given the fact that some of the boards are very punishing on how you can play your tiles, and you are not in control of how you get to play your tiles, on everybody else's turn. That's where the challenge lies, because I had a situation where I was limited on the ability of my greeneries from my board.
Mm-hmm.
It was supposed to be my strength of my board, but
it was
the fact that I couldn't get the first one you play, you got no greenery for. You had to build up your greenery area, so I had to be touching and adding to, and then no greenery would come up. I had to eventually fill in the area around it, and when I did, then the greeneries come up again. Well, now I've got sparse, individual greeneries. I got to never move up the track. But then the corollary was that if you read the board the way it states, the tile itself doesn't trigger the greenery going up the track. It was adding to the greenery. Well, the individual pieces add to the greenery. So it looked like you could potentially move up the track indefinitely until you hit the maximum. Well, guess what? The first tech step on the tree was when you hit the maximum, you can reset your greenery trail. So it basically looked like I could just do an infinite loop of going up that track over and over and over again from never having to play another piece, because every time I added a greenery, I would just add it to the board. I would fill my board in one turn. And it made no sense. But, the fact is, what it was really wanting to say is you only got to move up the track if you added a tile. The greenery, the individuals, don't make you move up the track. It's not what it says, though. It says when you expand your green area.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of holes like that in the gameplay that really, and it's like every combination that I've played so far has had something like that. Or we had the situation like what Sam had. The one time I actually had a good combination, Sam ended the game in 5 turns because he filled up his section.
I mean, and that's the thing is variable power, that is maybe not there. Maybe it is.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I still had a lot of fun. I still had a blast.
I think if you play it on the basic side where everything's balanced, I think this would be a great game to play. And it's unfortunate because you really want to try those other.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're very interesting, very appealing when you look at them. Yeah. And it's like, I love the idea of the tech trees.
I still would play with the tech trees. Like, I still would play it this way, even though I know I may just get a bad... But the thing is the problem that I'm seeing is we're going to end up house ruling so many things to make this actually functional. And it's like, okay, but then if we go to Gen Con, try to get this out, and we try to pull out all these house rules, it's going to be ridiculous.
Yeah.
People are going to look at us like we're insane, and fair enough. So that's my problem is like, we could fix this game. Like, we could probably play this 20 times and probably fix a lot of the issues that we're seeing, but that was the game developers' responsibility to do.
Yes.
And when you have to do that to a game,
then it's not a complete game. The game was not developed enough.
Correct. And it's really sad because I had so much fun.
It just had so much potential. I love having different abilities on different things. That's one of my favorite things about games is when not everybody's playing exactly the same game, but they are playing I love that. I think that creates like almost a story to the game.
I love it when it's done well, but it's very rarely done well. That's the problem. Tapestry came close, but they blew it by having some uber powerful ones that just killed it.
Yeah.
And we've house ruled it by removing the worst offender from it, and it makes it a better game. But Marco Polo does it pretty darn well. That's the best example of one I've seen that where it seems like everybody's got super powerful abilities, but they all don't. None of them seem like they're more powerful really than the others.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few that might be, but they're not. It's not a hugely noticeable. But it's so cool if somebody can pull it off.
Yeah.
It's just you've got to put a lot of time and effort in
takes a
testing it to
lot.
get it right.
Yeah.
It does.
So I'm going to give this 2 scores. 1 for fun value and 1 for practicality value. Because even though that being said, my dad, he played with us all of the games almost. And he had, the way he talked about it and stuff, I think this is probably one of the best he's had in quite some time. Like, he really did enjoy this beyond Big Shoulders. He really liked that one too. So this is one of those games that I feel like my dad really, really enjoys. So, and I did too. So, fun factor, I'm going to give this a 9 because I had a blast. The reality is, knowing the game mechanic issues, knowing that I'm going to have to self-rule it, means it's not a complete game, and I'm going to be playing a different game than what other people think I'm going to be playing. I can't give it... I mean, I'm going to give it a 7 because I can't give it any lower because I just had too much fun. So... There's a certain fun can make up some stuff. Okay, so a 9 for fun, 7 just because I can't give it any lower because I just had so much fun.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm gonna, instead of calling it a fun number, I'm gonna call it a potential number. So because I feel like it had so much potential, and some of that potential was fun. So I'm gonna give that a 7. As far as gameplay, like the actual game and how unbalanced and everything was, 5.
Oh, wow. I'm sat over here. I'm open. I really like this game.
I'm not even sure how to give it a fun factor for me because I've had nothing but anguish with the game. I really wanted to like this game.
Uh-huh.
I bought it with the hopes because it's looked like all the bits of things I like. I like I love tech trees. I love advancing on boards. I like the combos you can get when you step on things. That piece of it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love Tetris. I love arranging your pieces, and I love that component. And I like the fact that you got to choose from the Lazy Susan. It was a very simple game to teach. I loved all those things. And it's just executed so poorly, in my opinion. And it's so frustrating because I really wanted to like this game a lot. And so far I've had painful experiences every time I've played it.
Well,
And
the translation of painful experience for Randy is when he doesn't win.
no, it had nothing to do with that. It's when you run into a situation where there's a distinct advantage by the luck of the cards dropping, or the fact that when you're playing, your board combination that you ended up with is like they're counterintuitive to go with one another or to go with the cards. It's very frustrating because you're fighting an uphill battle and the person to your right or left is like, oh, this is super easy and fun. And it's like, no, I'm like struggling in a very painful situation.
No, because here's the thing, though. Even when we played, because the first time we played on the basic side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even then...
But that's when we had the events in it.
No, the events. Listen, guys, just scrap the events. Don't even bother with the suckers. Okay, I'll admit that was just a waste of
Yeah,
time.
because most of my game on the first game was spent trying to figure out how the events worked because we were all asking questions. So
Well,
when
you
you're
decided
constantly dealing with answering questions and checking the rules and all of that, it's not going to be a fun experience.
Well, we should have played on the basic side then.
We should have started out with just the basic side, no event. That was my mistake. I'm the one that suggested it was simple enough. Because usually, when you see a simple rule book and it seems like it's that easy, it's like, okay, just go ahead and put all the bells and whistles in.
Well,
This
learned your
one
mistake.
was definitely not the case. You should have started with no bells and whistles.
So what's your score, Randy?
I'm not going to give it a fun factor. I'm not going to give it a potential factor. I think I've already explained the potential this had. I'm going to go ahead and give it a 6. The other day I was like 7.5 and it's trickled down with each play.
I'm so sad.
I really wanted to like this a lot, and I still want to like it a lot. I wish this may be one worth doing house rules on, just because I really want to like this game, but There's so many issues with the way this thing combines.
Well, I will say, so when we had it at 4 players, everyone was able to pick from 2 boards each side of the board, and I think I really liked that. What I think what we'll end up doing is we'll do some of the house rules. We'll post those on our website. Like if you guys are interested in some of the house ruling that we're going to create, because Miranda likes this game, we'll get this out more. That's how that works. Miranda likes the game, we don't have to play it, but Miranda likes the game, we end up playing it. So
how about this? For every time we play this, I get to play Underwater Cities.
Ah, man! That hurts!
I could say Battlestar.
Oh, that's not going to happen.
That trickles down a little more.
No, but I think you're right. I think this is actually worth doing some house rules. So if you guys are interested in some of the house rules that we created, we talked a little bit about those. They will be posted on legendsofkickstarter.com. We'll get those posted, and as we develop and grow this, I'll continue to update the blog post around it. So hopefully maybe that will help some of you guys figuring out maybe some, that way you don't experience the balancing issues. Because reality is I do think that this has the grounds to be a fantastic game. And you talked about potential, you talked about how you wanted to love it because there's so many good things. There is a lot of good things. The components are here. We've just got to figure out the rules.
Yeah.
So, hey, we want your opinion. If you've played it and you've thought about some house rules, let us know. We'll give them a shout out. We'll figure it out. We'll put it together.
I will say there's a lot of people who really love this game. There's a lot of people positively speaking out about this game. It's getting a lot of positive buzz. We might get a lot of flack for our opinion on it. It's our opinion. You know, you might love it. You don't want to take it away. You might love this game. I really wanted to love it. You know, we all wanted to love it. You did love it at first.
I still love it. So that's the thing is yeah, there's some issues, but I would still play this over and over again. I just had too much fun. I could overlook all the problems. Like I play Tapestry. Even if that stupid one is in the playthrough, I just realize I'm not going to win, but I still have enough fun. I don't care. Okay? And I think that's the case with this game is I'm having too much fun. I honestly don't care about all the issues, but I do know in the back of my head, we're going to have to do some house ruling to make this functional. And I think that's where probably a lot of people are house ruling, not even realizing they're house ruling. And that's the reality. If you're playing by the rules itself, there's a hole. But I think with house rules, we can fix it. And that's what I want to do. So there it is. I'm determined. Y'all don't know. When I get on a streak, okay, 2.5 years ago, I told Randy, hey, we're filming this. We're starting a channel. Look, see where we're at now. All right. So I can get a little stubborn. All right. Well, thank you guys. Maybe a lot. Okay, it's because what I do for work. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had an absolute blast, or at least I did. I don't know about Randy. We'll catch you guys later. Bye.